Good evening. It is July 17th. I'm going to call this the Come Clean video. This is a video that I have been dreading making and wanting to put off. I am documenting my physical and mental health struggles so that in the future I can use it as material for potential clients in my quest to become a health coach. And so I am trying to be fully transparent, and that means admitting where I am with my health, and documenting the journey from here so that by the time I actually am a health coach and this is my business and this is my life, I can look back and say, I have done this. I know what the struggle is like. I, too, started from a place of less than optimum health. So today I had my first session with a health coach. This was available to me through my benefits at work. It's free to me. And it was pretty much as I would have expected. It's a resource, it's a tool. I have a rather grand vision for what I want to become. And there's fluidity within the profession of health coaching. I feel I like the idea that I can build my own model and provide services in a unique way. Where I'm at with searching for curriculums and choosing a certification program is I'm delaying, maybe unnecessarily delaying, beginning a program for financial reasons. And so I promised myself that I wouldn't lose momentum in the search. And in the interim, I became rather omnivorous in my reading diet. I look at curriculums and feel a lack of confidence. I feel like they're too basic. And so I said, that's okay. You're going to have to market yourself. You're going to have to set yourself apart. So come up with a curriculum of your own to tide you over until you actually begin a program. And towards that end, I began to read all kinds of books like Dr. Casey Means's Good Energy, Forever Strong by Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I'm reading Dr. Robert Lustig's Metabolical currently. I've read books about meridians. I've read a ton of books about energy healing. And that is a whole other can of worms that I'll make another video about when I'm ready. But basically, in the meantime, I feel like a dog with a blanket over its head. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm really craving being part of a program, because even if I think, oh, this is oversimplified, having a structure to my learning would help quell this feeling of, I really do feel like, they do intelligence tests with dogs, and one of them is to throw a big blanket or towel over the dog's head and then time the dog to see how long it takes for the dog to emerge from that. I feel like I'm in the phase with I'm still under the blanket. That's what I feel like because it's so vast and I'm trying to wrap my arms around so much so quickly without a structure. So why am I doing that? I had a conversation with a woman who does energy medicine locally because I'm interested in her services. And she said, "Why do you want to do this?" I said, "Well, I want to be a health coach. And this is a modality that I'm going to explore as part of my self education." And I said, really, if I had my druthers, if I could go back and do my life over again, I would probably have become a naturopath. That's the base of knowledge that I am most interested in. One of the certification programs that I'm looking into was founded by a naturopath, so it's one of my top 2 candidates for certification. But then I thought, no, what does that really mean? Like archetypally, what does that represent to you? And so I said, well, I want to be a healer. I want to heal people. But then I had a great big aha moment in which I said, I don't believe in healers. I don't believe there is such a thing as a person who can heal another person. What I believe happens is that we all heal ourselves. We have to activate and steer and maximize and focus the body's own ability to heal itself. That is what medicine is. That is what healing is. So, in thinking about becoming a health coach, maybe I will get to a place where the best description of what I hope to offer is I am a self-healing teacher. But that is years out. And when I get back to the dreaded part of this video, you will understand maybe why. Because I would not put myself in a position of offering that were I not able to say with confidence that I had lived that firsthand. So I'm going to have a vegetable. I'm going to have some beets and carrots here. Excuse me for talking with my mouth full. So this video is foundational to my vlog series because in it I'm going to talk about every bloody health problem that I have. Honestly, when you hear them, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I don't think I would go with that person to be my health coach. But this is the start of a journey. When I was personal training, one of the biggest principles that I learned in fitness was you tell people that you don't train for your strengths, you train for your weaknesses. People tend to want to stick to workouts that are less challenging because maybe they are built for strength but not endurance. And so you would look at a person's overall performance and you would say, you need to work on this, but they don't want to because their comfort level, their comfort zone is strength and vice versa. So am I a healthy person? No. Am I a role model? No. But I think that this is probably happening at a particular time in my life when I'm really facing a fork in the road and I can't afford to fuck around anymore because I'm 43. So there are some things that if I don't get a handle on them, I feel like will really develop into some scary problems later on. And that's just a natural part of being middle-aged. You're not going to bounce back. You're not going to recover. And you can't do what I have done, which is develop a very bipolar pattern of health and fitness. I have a lot of peaks and valleys. A lot of people think that I am healthier than I am because they see me maybe in a phase where I'm very gung-ho. And I appear to have habits and behavior on the outside of a role model, but really it's pretty short-lived. And so I am identifying what are the underlying contributions to that pattern. So problem sets that I have. I am very addicted to nicotine, actually. And that was the biggest problem set that we worked on in my health coaching call. I started smoking when I was 18. I didn't give it up until I became a personal trainer. I did quite well for about 3 years. And I had a very stressful event happen that took me back to cigarettes for a short time. And then I recovered from that, but I left personal training to go back into newspaper reporting. And I moved from Connecticut to the Virgin Islands, where I had a job from hell. I mean, absolute nightmare of a job. But more than that, one of the reasons why I got into personal training was that I had a very, very unhealthy lifestyle as a reporter that I somehow identified as a requisite part of being a reporter. I was a stress monkey, junkie, caffeine all day, cigarettes all day, running on fumes, running on adrenaline, and no sense of nutrition. Because I had never been obese or overweight, I was mostly underweight. I wasn't a restrictive eater. I did not have an eating disorder, but it was just fuck all. Like, I can't even tell you. So I was wiry, thin, very much an adrenaline junkie because part of my job was running around from crime scene to crime scene. If I were in a briefing or at home and something came across the scanner, it was dash out the door. Car accidents, fires, emergencies, getting there, being first to be there. It was a very exhilarating, very exciting way to live. And I didn't have any concept anymore of myself outside of it. And after a year of living that way, I got laid off, and I thought to myself that, when thinking about, can I do this as a career? This was my first real job. I thought I was pretty good at it, and I very much enjoyed having a quote-unquote real job, being professional, having a business card, et cetera, and a cube. And I remember asking myself before the layoffs, just a few weeks before, like, what are you going to be like when you're 50? And I had a conversation in my head like, well, I don't even know if I'll make it, but at least I will have lived, you know. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just die at my desk, but I'll have done a lot of reporting by then, and that's okay with me. And then I was like, what am I even saying? It was a very dire time. And I noticed that in newsrooms, there were only two kinds of people like me who were addicted to stimulants, cigarettes, just the wire thin ones, and then really obese people. I didn't really see a lot of in between. And it was because different people maladapt in different ways to the stress level. So when I was laid off, even though I could see it coming and it still felt abrupt to me because it felt like I had really just begun. I was just in that first year. And I thought to myself that I almost made a Faustian bargain. I made a deal with the devil and it didn't work because it didn't last. And it was a hard lesson for me, but I did take stock and I did say, you were going to die there. You were content to die at your desk. That was the deal you made. And these people never saw it. It was not recognized. And so you will never do that again. And then 3 years later, I was bored and I kept referring to my days as a reporter as like my glory days. And I thought to myself, I'm too young for that. And I was offered another position. And the only way for me to cope with the stress of, I don't know if I can do this, it's an even tougher market, it's even bigger news, and the caliber of the paper was such that I just threw myself back into it. And all the bad habits came back because of identity. People who have studied, people who do successfully lose large amounts of weight and get in really great shape after being rather obese and actually keep it off so they don't yo-yo. People who've studied them say that the more successful longer term ones are so because they adopted a new identity. So in their mind, they had to deconstruct who they were and reconstruct another person. And sometimes I do feel like that is a sticking point for me, where I will get to a certain point in my health journey and I have so identified with the goals, dreams, hopes, attitudes. I'm unwilling to let go of my previous identity. I want to hold on to that. I hold those times dear, even though those times were really shitty for my body. And I have never been able to fully integrate my two identities. So if I can do that, that is what I'm going to do. I think I'm in a better place to do that because at least with respect to reporting or other types of jobs, I've had another job since that I deeply identified with, and it didn't work out for all the same reasons. but it was so gratifying to that part of me that craves intellectual stimulation and the validity and status of having a title that I can present to the world. This is what I do, and using my brain, etc., etc. I feel that at this point I'm in a better position to let that go because I did enough of it. I proved to myself what I had to prove. So I'm done with the glory days shit. I'm done with the glory days shit. So nicotine addiction. At the beginning of the year, I quit vaping for 6 months. I never smoke cigarettes. I only do e-cigs. They actually make the nicotine addiction worse. And I will do a whole other video on that. But I quit for 6 months. I made it to June, and I had 2 major conflicts erupt in my life. And I caved. So with my health coach, we've identified a new quit date. It is August 1st. I'm going to be having coaching calls, and I'm going to be part of a cessation program. It felt good to me to be able to talk about the particulars of the addiction and what I go through. And I will say more on those matters in another video. Other problem sets that I have at this point are low renal function and osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis in my back causes me to have pain there, and sometimes in my hips. I have a problem in my right hip. It's never been specifically, the diagnosis hasn't ever become specific enough because they just simply don't have enough of a way of getting into the joint and identifying what particular part of it is injured. It is a long-standing injury, but it has to do with the balancing of my sacroiliac joint. When I get out of alignment, I twist into the joint, and I have dealt with this very minor thing, for 6 years, and I didn't think it would ever go away, and it did. And it only went away because I started to problematize it and make it a goal, and then devote a lot of time and attention to finding the right people, methods, exercises. I struggled for years trying to DIY this shit, watching videos on YouTube by chiropractors, orthopedists. I used to do all kinds of crazy shit with it. I used to hang a kettlebell off of my foot and stand on this behind me because it felt like the right side of my body was like a straw that was like bent over. And I imagined that my hip bone was inserted incorrectly into the SI joint, and if I could just stretch it and pull it down. But all I was doing really was distracting the joint, and I wasn't working on the alignment. So I found someone who's a massage therapist, and we started doing this thing called the Schatz method, SCHATZ. And it is brilliant. It is actually a combination of massage and PT. And unlike the quick chiropractic adjustments, which I would get and then go back out of alignment, she helped give me exercises to do on my own. It was really bloody expensive. It was $130 an hour. I only had to do 4 or 5. It was well worth it. that and quitting vaping, drinking a ton of water, doing PT exercises that I was also getting through this app called Hinge Health on my phone. And then one day, and then working out, and one day I realized, oh my God, I don't feel the twist. I don't feel any pain. And it was gone. It was 6 years of this, and it wasn't terribly painful, but it was very frustrating because it was chronic. It was daily. So that went away. It has come back somewhat, but that was a major breakthrough for me. And it's these types of things that I see people all the time kind of layering on. And so I believe that as if you have something like that and you believe that it's minor and you don't sit yourself down and take the time to find the resources and demand a cure, what ends up happening is you lose competence, you lose confidence, and you lose hope. So that when something else comes along and there's another layer to it, your response will be to withdraw from yourself and sort of shut down and ignore and allow even more layers to accumulate because you haven't had the experience of working with your body and you don't feel competent. It's all about competence. So if you have a very, very minor thing, I'll give you another example of a very, very minor thing. If you don't take control and nip things in the bud proactively early on, I feel that you're making yourself more vulnerable psychologically so that other forms of illness can come in. So another example would be my cuticles. This is a big thing. I decided that I would start getting my nails done at a salon, even though I have a lot of problems ethically with that and financially, because when I don't, I constantly pick at my cuticles and they get like dry, hard, and frayed. And so to me, I'm looking at that as a way to signal to myself. It was when I began working out at the beginning of the year. It was one of the things that was really just constantly like a hangnail. It was like a hangnail on my brain. Work is tough because I work so much with my hands that just putting nail polish on will just chip. So I said to myself, these are the ends of you. These are literally the ends of the very ends of your body, and they're fraying. So go to the salon, spend the money, because when the gel or acrylic is on my nails, I physically can't do skin picking. Some people have problems with skin picking. It's very much the same energy. I don't pick at my face. I pick at my cuticles. So I wanted to see what would happen if I kept that energy. And it did feel a lot better. So, but that is an energetic thing. This guy that I watched online, Nate Ortiz, talks about people who fidget with their hands and that being what he thinks is a second chakra issue. But when I started working out, it was sort of a commitment that I made to myself to use vanity I said, if you have an urge to vanity, you can use that to your advantage. I wanted to be like these fit chicks that I saw and was doing bodybuilding workouts because I was like, someday maybe I could get maybe, and I will emulate. This isn't a bad way to go. This always gets me out of a hole. I always revert back to the influencers because they are not experts, but they are there to motivate, and we're all sort of, to some degree or another, social creatures. And if that can drive a wedge between you and an utter bottoming out place, then it doesn't have to be ideal. They don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding is not about health. Oh God, no. But it is a hook. Like, it's a behavioral hook for me. Okay, so I want to say too that a lot of health coaches get into health coaching because they struggled with some horrible, mysterious, intractable, seemingly so, health condition. Often digestive, noticed. And you will hear a lot of people's origin stories being, I had this terrible skin condition, digestion was poor, I couldn't sleep, I had fatigue, I was in a state of, they're clearly in a state of maybe toxicity. And I tried everything, and they're otherwise healthy people. I mean, they're not addicts, like they're not like vaping like me, but that's their story. So unless you count bipolar disorder and PTSD, that's not my story. I didn't have an affliction that I managed to unlock the secrets of through alternative health and functional medicine. It wasn't, nothing is mysterious to my doctors. Nothing is mysterious to me. I don't have an IV cancer story. I mean, there's people who beat these massive, like, health problems. So that's not my story, but that's okay with me because I had to sit myself down and recognize that all of the pain, aches, discomforts, everything that I can currently identify as a health problem I have is 100% caused by me and my behavior. And I feel like that's lucky. There's nothing I can say, this just happened, this just developed. It's not like I didn't know that vaping is bad for you or smoking is bad for you. I've just been very, very, it's like my strength works against me. I've been able to go in and out of these phases of really sticky, gross, ill health and come out of them and just keep, but I'm working against a curve, and that curve is age, and I recognize that. So that really opened me up to people like Carolyn Mace. She's one of the authors that I've been reading and listening to, and, really her approach to health can be very off-putting, offensive even. I think she's one of the more pointed speakers in that camp about responsibility. And there's all kinds of problems, I would say, with mysticism and the woo-woo crowd. And again, I'll make another video. But the basic principle is you are responsible for your own health. And I think it's very hard to package that message in a way that makes people want to come towards you as opposed to running away. Because there's all kinds of information now about processed food, environmental toxins, overwork, repetitive motion, chronic stress, negative emotions that put socioeconomic and environmental factors at the fore when it comes to causing ill health. And while that's one layer, that's one level of looking at it, if we have all that information, it would be easy for a person to deflect and say, you see, everything is stacked against us now. All this food, we live in an obesogenic society. Chronic illness is on the rise because industry is guilty of malpractice when it comes to basic human health and safety. And all of that is literally true, but it would get a person into a place of feeling stuck. And that's what a health coach will hopefully be a lifeline out of. So responsibility was hard. It was hard for me, but I knew it. And I knew that the payoff would be a pain-free existence. So really, why not? So I have a list of things that the low renal function. So basically, I think that I have the beginnings of cardiovascular disease. Now you're going to laugh. I not even 2 months ago was running 10 miles. I was riding my bike to work, taking cardio yoga classes and weights 3, 4, 5 times a week. I was doing a lot. I can get to that place, and I can get to that place relatively quickly before I relapse. When I do relapse, I do have cardiac symptoms. I think that this is one of my points of frustration with the medical system, because I have brought this up to my doctor and she referred me for an EKG. That EKG came back normal. Thank God. I'm grateful for that. But one of the things on my list to do was to get a full cardiac workup, because I thought, I am the kind of person, I understand what motivates me, and I need to be having more transparent conversations with my doctors, and really demanding more from them so that they can demand more from me. And we can't do that as long as everything that I am afraid of remains at the subclinical level and it's not taken seriously. So I might actually go ahead and go forward with that. It's probably going to be ungodly expensive, but that's where I'm at with that, because I really wanted somebody, I can see it on myself. I can see when I'm vaping, I look like Gollum. I look like a ghoul. I have blue veins creeping out of my hands. These blue veins have developed in my temple. I just feel like, oh my God, I could just be thinking a stressful thought and people can see, this sense of vulnerability that I have. I'm very pale. I don't want to change that. I don't like getting tan. And I just look vascular. And you can read that on a person. You can read it in my skin. Having, I'm saying, I'm leveraging vanity, but that's all I'm doing. I'm just leveraging vanity because I have a deeper sort of fear or foreboding. So how to get I rather than just throw makeup on it or pretend it's not going on, I make lists of things to watch out for in the meantime. Because what I want is a full cardiac workup. I want an actual doctor to sit down and go, you know what, Miss Norris, you're kind of a fuck up. And I'll be like, yes, I know. Thank you. Explain more about that. Let's draw a map of the fuck it upness. Let's make the edges of it known to me so that I have something I can grasp onto and work on. I'm a very goal-oriented, like, give me a deadline. And that's kind of why I like the health coaching. But one of the parts of my health coaching program is, what are the steps I came up with? 1, believe you can get well, 100% well, and don't settle for anything less than 100% cure. 2 would be to gather your data. So have a complete picture of, and as specifically as possible in clinical, real terms. So that's why I like the health coaching programs that teach people how to use clinical functional labs, because we can't just sit there and listen to people's litany of symptoms or whatever they're unhappy with and then be shooting in the dark. I'm a very scientific, rational person. So gathering your data is the second step. And I am thinking about becoming a subscriber to a service called Index Health. It's kind of a concierge health service because it allows you access to an array of clinical functional labs. One of the things that happened this year was I started to take creatine during my bulk creatine monohydrate just to see, because there's so much hype around it and it is so highly recommended. And I was nervous about it because I know I had a general amorphous idea that I have weak kidneys based on a past history of dark circles under my eyes. I still have that. Sinus problems are linked in Eastern medicine. I have a lot of symptoms that are like kidney deficiency syndrome. I'm not tolerating cold well, pain in my lower back. All this shit. Shit that if I went to my doctor with it, and we don't go anywhere. The conversation doesn't go anywhere. Because it's subclinical. And that's why I'm so turned on by these health coaching programs, because the conversation actually does go somewhere. But it has to be, steered by the coach, but the person has to be willing to go, put in the time, get the labs done, paint a picture, be specific. If there's damage, let's look at it. Because, that's the thing about my problems. They're all behavioral. But so what? I still need to know where I'm coming from so I can know where I'm going. So I feel like if I had more data, even if that data was bad, like if it's something that I'm like, oh, I don't want to get my next kidney test. Because I feel like I failed, and one of my goals was to bring my EGFR up, which is very difficult to do. But even if that happened, I would at least know where I am. So I feel like we operate with a lot less of a picture, a lot less of a data set, when in this day and age that technology is available to all of us if you have the resources, if you have the money. It's a whole other thing. But so index health is something that I am considering doing. I have held off because of money, and also because if I were to enter into one of these health coaching certification programs, that might be redundant because you get tests through the program. So what I'm dealing with generally, if I had to say, if I were looking at myself as another person, the problems I'm dealing with are, I have the renal function of a much older person. My EGFR came back a couple of months ago. I did a test on my own through LabCorp. You can purchase it. I was doing that because I started taking creatine, and then in coming off of the creatine, I started to notice some things like foam in my urine, things like that. And I thought, okay, well, let's see and I don't believe the creatine damaged my kidneys. I think they already were damaged from vaping and other things, stress. But yeah, my EGFR isn't supposed to be below 90 until I'm like 60 years old. But it turns out my doctor already knew that. She had done this as part of lab work like 6 months prior and never said anything to me because in her mind, she said she's not concerned. That is the gap. That is the gap. So at this point, it's subclinical. If it drops below 60, then I have like stage 2 or stage 3 chronic kidney disease. That is the clinical threshold. And I'm like, well, again, I come up against this like with the osteoarthritis. It's like, I'm trying to prevent this. Help motivate me. I think I need to do a better job of saying to my doctors, help motivate me. I'm trying to turn my doctor into a health coach, and I'm coming up against deficiencies in the system where people's professional roles have a scope, and even trying to get the specialists to coordinate with each other. So my GP is supposed to be my initial point of contact. She's a very lovely woman. I love her to pieces. She's this older, funny, quirky, and highly intelligent Black lady. And, I like her and I trust her, but it's like herding cats with these people, because going to see the orthopedist, the orthopedist didn't even send back my x-rays. They don't. So now when I go in to talk to my GP about my low back pain, they don't have the data. And I thought, well, that's nonsensical, because the GP is the one who sent me to the orthopedist. If that's based on a referral, why? There's no centralization of even your records. It is this labyrinthine spaghetti knot mess. Anyway, I'm just glad that I'm utilizing a health coach because it's free to me. And one of my points about it is that I lived without health insurance and benefits for so long that I think a lot of people don't maximize the resources that they have. So that's something that I will work with clients on. So basically, what are the problems? Okay. Hip pain. Now I'm having feet issues. Cardiovascular disease. Kidney disease. Manias, depressions, some PTSD, flare-ups. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not a lot, actually. It's a very manageable load. I know that doesn't sound like it maybe to some people, but compared to what all people have going on, I mean, every day I look around and I see so much stress on people's bodies. You have to start where you are. You can't start some other place. My boyfriend is very fit for his age, very health conscious, never smoked, and he works out routinely. He does these marathons and half marathons, although he doesn't run them, he walks them, and he does weights, and he's so anal about his diet. It's so cute. He's like, I have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. So he gained a bunch of weight a few years ago and was successfully, slowly, very incrementally losing it. He'll research things. He's very evidence-based. He's not into the woo-woo stuff. But he told me he has a friend who has a workout studio, a whole fitness business, very close to our homes. And his friend said he could come work out. He could do these classes anytime, right? And he said, I'm just going to wait until I lose some more of this weight. Then when I feel like I am really happy with the way I look, I go to the fitness classes. Right? This is Mr. Evidence, right? He doesn't do anything without like a clinical study and I said, you realize that's ass backward, right? But he's ass backward in a way that most of us are. Most of us are self-protective. Most of us have pride. Most of us are very fear-based and ego-based, and that's what it is. That's the sticking point. So I was doing that, and I recognized that I'm not going to do that. This is not acceptable. This is not an acceptable, candid vlog way to go. So that's part of why I'm doing the video to document where I am now. Now, June and July have been terrible months for me. I would say I am queen of backsliding because that's one of the things I'm trying to fix is being all or nothing. It is a deeply ingrained thinking pattern. It is something that I see feeding into the whole bipolarology. I'm willing to say, in all honesty, and I'll do another video unpacking where I'm at with the bipolar disorder, because I think I've made videos so far that makes it seem like I totally triumphed and, cured it and it's gone. I no longer identify as bipolar. I don't say I am bipolar and I don't say I have bipolar disorder. The reason why I don't say that in clinical settings or to people is because I feel that there is a lack of honesty regarding the causes of my disorder, and that calling it such and identifying as a person with that disorder brings that this chain of dishonesty. Okay. I do say, and I do acknowledge, I have had manias and I have had depressions since going off meds. It was a pattern that was still present, but it wasn't present in the way that was predicted, and it wasn't nearly as bad. And I feel like it takes some of the air out for me to say, I have depression or I have mania sometimes, because if I say I have bipolar disorder, it becomes a deterministic label. And it's as much for me as other people. It's much more honest for me to say, I've had manias and I've had depressions. And I think the more that I learn about functional medicine, I'm doing a lot of research on metabolism, as cellular metabolism and mitochondria. I just read a book about mitochondria by Lee Know, Know. These functional medical doctors who are coming to the fore of this way of looking at health and way of practicing health coaching, a lot of them are focusing on cellular metabolism and mitochondria. What my bipolar disorder became fundamentally after struggling with it, the most neutral, detached, minimal way to address it is to say that it's about energy regulation. And I'm not really down with people concluding that it's, at least that my mental distress was somehow a tragic case of malnutrition or vitamin deficiency, or, I don't believe that about myself, although I do believe that certain people with food sensitivities and metabolic issues, metabolic chaos, metabolic syndromes can end up suffering symptoms that mimic mental disorders, depression, anxiety, even schizophrenia. That's not the type of psychiatric survivor that I am. I feel that mine was very firmly rooted in trauma and abuse, and that there was a mistranslation of that, and that a lot of it was iatrogenic. So, but it doesn't really matter when it comes to going forward. I learned, for instance, that when I was reading clinical psychopharmacology, I learned that the medication that I was taking for it wipes out the folate levels in your body. I believe that the body takes in iron and folic acid. Folic acid is B vitamins. These are really, really critical to helping you generate energy. Just energy for life. And when they're wiped out by medications, that fatigue is incredible. And nobody told me that this would go on. None of the prescribers, none of the doctors who treated me expressed that this could happen. And I just find it so baffling how we have this system that is so expensive and so cutting edge and so burdensome to the population, and yet the most basic things that impact people's everyday states of being they fall through the cracks. I don't find it forgivable. I know. But in thinking about energy medicine and functional medicine, I've decided that it helps me
approach my bipolar symptoms more from a place of that. Let's look at what's going on in terms of cells. Let's look at what's going on in terms of neurotransmitters. And that has been really life affirming because it means that I can operate from a place of hope as opposed to a place of I just need to manage it the best that I can. I'm not going to be content to manage it the best that I can. My goal is to make it go away. And these people, the more I learn, the more I see how my mental health struggles are not dissimilar and not divorced from other physical health struggles. Because this vein of medicine does not draw a separation between the mind and the body. Okay, so again, to recap, what my plan will be built around, my problem sets, cardiovascular problems, renal deficiency, arthritis, nicotine addiction. I think that's it. I mean, mania, depression, PTSD. That's just a few little things, just a few little things. But no, I feel hopeful and I feel like, this is my problem set. It's pointless to relativize it. Maybe people feel like, good God, no way. That's too much. But it is what it is. It's present. It's my reality. So, and what I learned from the beginning of the year was that when one thing gets better, all the things get better. Just proving the principle when it comes to the body and mind that it is all interconnected. So that's where I am today. I'm just being honest with you. I'll continue to give you progress updates and outline how I'm doing. Thank you for listening. I hope you are well. My name is Amanda, and I'm an aspiring health coach.